Clara always said my greatest strength was my patience, how I could sit for hours perfecting the curve of a single letter in a design, and she meant it as a compliment, I think. We had built a life together over 5 years, a comfortable world inside the sun-drenched loft apartment I had found and fallen in love with long before she moved in. Lately, though, that comfort had worn thin, replaced by a quiet, gnawing distance. So when she announced a week-long wellness retreat for work, a mandatory trip to a secluded resort a few hundred miles up the coast, a part of me was relieved. I thought the space might help us reset. I hugged her goodbye at the door, smelling the familiar scent of her gardenia perfume, and told her to have a good time. That night, I decided to treat myself to dinner at a little Italian place downtown I loved, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. And that's when I saw her. She was sitting on the patio, not at a secluded resort, but at a trendy bistro across the street, laughing, her head tilted back as a man I recognized as one of her wealthy clients leaned in close, his hand resting casually on her back. The world didn't crash down in a wave of noise, it just went silent. I felt the warmth of the bread in my hands turn to cold stone. I didn't storm over. I didn't shout. I just took out my phone, zoomed in as far as it would go, and took 3 perfectly clear pictures. Then I paid my bill and went home to the apartment that suddenly felt like a tomb. The lease was in my name, a simple month-to-month agreement that required a 60-day notice. Clara's name was nowhere on it. The next morning, I called my landlord, Mr. Henderson, a retired carpenter who lived downstairs, and gave my notice. I found a new place that same afternoon, a sterile, modern apartment on the other side of town. For the next 7 weeks, I became an actor in my own life. When Clara came home, glowing and talking about meditation and sunrise yoga, I just nodded. I let her stories of the retreat wash over me, a fantasy I was no longer a part of. She started staying out late more often, citing work dinners or drinks with friends, sometimes texting that she was crashing at a girlfriend's place. I'd just reply with a simple, "Okay, be safe." I played the part of the slightly distant but still dedicated partner, even suggesting we look into couples counseling, a suggestion she easily swatted away. Mr. Henderson was my silent partner in crime. He scheduled viewings for the loft only when he knew Clara would be at work, or, as I suspected, with her client. He never said a word to her, his face a mask of grandfatherly indifference whenever they passed in the hall. The final Saturday arrived like any other. I woke up early. At 8 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. It was not a friend with a pickup truck, it was a professional moving crew, 3 large men in matching jumpsuits. Clara walked out of the bedroom, rubbing her eyes, a silk robe loosely tied at her waist. She looked from the men to the empty boxes they were already starting to assemble, and then to me, a confused smile on her face. "What is all this, Leo?" she asked. I didn't say anything. I just reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the 3 photographs I had printed at a kiosk the day before, and laid them on the kitchen island. They were 5x7s, glossy and sharp. Her smile vanished. Her face went pale as she stared at the image of her own laughing face, so happy with another man. Just then, Mr. Henderson appeared at the open door, his expression grim. He informed her that my lease was terminated, and since she was not a registered tenant, she was now trespassing. He said the new tenants were moving in on Monday, and she had until midnight to remove her personal property, otherwise it would be considered abandoned and left on the curb. She looked around the apartment in a panic, as if seeing it for the first time. The sofa, the dining table, the bookshelves, the art on the walls, all of it was mine, collected over years. All she owned was her clothes, her books, and the little decorative things that now seemed so small and meaningless. The movers worked with brutal efficiency, leaving her belongings in a growing pile in the center of the living room. The last thing I saw as I walked out was her, standing amidst the wreckage of her things, her face a mask of stunned disbelief. I didn't feel the rush of victory I expected. Driving to my new, empty apartment, I looked at my own reflection in the rearview mirror, and I didn't fully recognize the man staring back. The patience Clara had once admired had been forged into something else, something colder and harder. I had built a plan from a place of pure logic, executed it without a flicker of emotion, and in doing so, I discovered a part of myself I never knew existed. A man who could watch a world burn and feel nothing but the quiet, chilling satisfaction of a job well done. I had won, but I realized in that sterile new beginning that the person I had truly sought revenge on might have been the naive man I used to be.